Hi everyone, this is Adam with the Modern Collective, and I'm really excited to be bringing you our very first video tutorial on our newest product called Quotables. Quotables is a set of 28 Photoshop brushes that we created for the Modern Collective shop and for you as photographers to create really cool graphics for your marketing, packaging, product design, Facebook cover photos, you name it. There's a lot of different options with these, and we just want to jumpstart your creativity using the Quotables brushes with showing you a few projects that we've done in our studio. We're going to start off by showing you how to install the brushes for those of you that aren't familiar with brushes and how to get them into Photoshop. And we're going to go through a series of projects just to kind of start with an intermediate starting project and then going into something that's a little bit more complex as a marketing piece for you guys as well, just to inspire you on how you can use these in your studio. So let's get started. I'm going to jump over to Bridge here quickly and just show you the file that you actually download from the Modern Collective shop and what's all included in that. As you see here, there's a few different files. The one you want to look for and what's most important is the Quotables brush set themselves. It's pretty much labeled out there for you. It's yelling at you here, brushes. The quickest and easiest way to install that is to just simply double click it. I'm not going to do it here just because I already have them in Photoshop and they're ready to go for us, but double click it. It's going to open up Photoshop if you don't already have it open, and it's not going to look like it's going to do a whole lot, but I assure you that it'll load it into your brushes palette and they'll be ready to go. If for any reason that they don't get into your brushes palette, take a look at this getting started guide that we've included as well. It takes you through a few additional steps if you're having trouble getting those brushes into your brushes palette. If you're still having problems and you're struggling, you can always email us at info@themoderncollective too, and we'll get you started and get you going with your new Quotables brushes as well. But let's pop back over into Photoshop, and we're going to kind of look through the projects that we have planned for you guys. And we're just going to start off with a really basic one for you and get started and kind of show you the ropes with these quotable brushes. So the first project that I have for you is a really simple 12 by 12 product design. As you can see here, it's a 12 by 12 document. We have 4 by 4 squares on the perimeter of the document, each with individual photos of the same client. This product is kind of meant for you as a studio to be really simple to create, and it's a great upsell product as well when you're in the sales session. You can really have them customize it to their needs too. Maybe have a printout of all the quotable brush options that there are, and then they choose out their favorite 8 images and you quickly throw it together. So let's just jump in here and I can kind of show you the versatility of the quotable brushes, and we'll kind of continue on through all the projects. So getting started with brushes, I guess the first thing to know that the quotable brushes work in 2 of the tools in Photoshop. It's either the brush tool or else the eraser tool. And let me show you where those are located. So the brush tool is right here. If you're used to Photoshop and you use it quite often, you probably know where the brushes are. The eraser tool is maybe a little bit less of a used tool, but it's also located in your taskbar on the left-hand side. So find those in there. And to find the brushes themselves, you're going to go to either the brush tool or the eraser tool. I'm going to show you the brush tool here. Just click on it and then your brush palette will be up in the top taskbar here. And your brushes, by double clicking them, should have loaded at the bottom of the brush palette. So as you can see, there's a series of quote brushes here. There's a few miscellaneous graphics that we've included that we'll use a little bit later, as well as the badges and the banners that we've included and some textures that we'll use in the final project as well. So let's get started with this 12 by 12 design. Like I said, I'm going to make it really simple. We're actually going to create a new transparent layer. So down at the bottom, you're just going to hit the new layer icon and it's going to create a transparent layer here. I'm actually going to title this one Quote because that will be the layer we're going to stamp our quote on. I'm going to go up to the brushes and I'm going to select the Do Good Work brush. It's actually the first one in the series of quotable brushes in this set. So select that one, making sure your brush is at an opacity of 100% and that you have a foreground selected. This is actually white right now. That's not going to show up on the white box in the center, so I'm actually just going to hit X, or else you can hit the little arrow key here and it'll switch that brush color to the other color, the foreground and background colors. I'm going to start with black and keep it really simple on this one. As I hover over this image, you can kind of see that the outline of that Do Good Work brush is actually overlaid on the image. So you can see where that is. If for any reason that you are seeing something like this, the crosshairs, it means that you have your caps lock key enabled. Just simply hit that and it'll show you the brush there after you hit that key. I'm going to just really quickly just show you how to get this on here. We have the quote layer activated over here. It's a transparent layer. We're actually working underneath the images. I've grouped the images into a folder here, so I'm just going to shut those off just so you can see. So we have those in a group. We're working underneath them here. So having the quote layer activated, I'm just going to stamp this do good work stamp once. You can see it's going behind the images. I'm going to actually hit V to select the move tool, and we're going to resize that down with the transform tool just so it fits within that box. So as you can see, it fits perfectly within there after resizing. I'm actually going to center those using the align tools as well. So holding down command, I'm going to select the quote layer and the background layer, and I'm going to center them vertically and horizontally with the align tools at the top here. So that's perfectly centered into the middle there. It looks good this way, but I want to add a little bit more interest to this to have it look like a cohesive finished product for your client as well. So again, I'm going to go and select the background layer, and I'm going to hit a new layer here to create another transparent layer. This one I'm going to just label halftone. You don't really need to label it if you don't want to, but I'm just going to label it so you guys can see what I'm working with here. We're going to go up to the brush tool again, select another brush. This time it's going to be one of the miscellaneous graphic brushes that are kind of located here. And this time I'm going to select the halftone brush. When you first select it, it's going to look something like this. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm going to go over here. It's just a bunch of little tiny dots that are kind of fun, and they work really well with the quote brushes, with the quotables. So I'm going to go again, make sure that that halftone layer, the new layer you just created, is selected. And I'm going to just stamp once up here, and again right at the bottom. And those both are on the same layer, so you can kind of see how that finalizes that product design. But maybe we want to change that color. Let's say we want to make it match the images, or maybe there's a certain color that the client likes. What we're going to do is we're going to actually just go over to that layer and go down to our effects. Sorry for hitting that, I didn't mean to do that. We're going to go down to our effects tools, and we're going to choose color overlay. It's the fourth one up from the bottom. Just select that. In here you have a few different options. You have some blending modes and opacities. We're not really going to mess with those right now. We're just going to select a color here. So just select that color, and here you can either eyedrop, you can select any color within the images. You know, we could do a blue, or we could do her face color. But I think I'm going to go more of like the green color that's included in a lot of the background of this image. So I'm just going to find one that I like here that's pretty basic, and just click OK and OK again, and it's going to make this little color overlay. So this is really good to know. You can do this with any of the brush layers. It's one of the reasons that I like to keep things separate as well. So if we would have done the halftones and the quotes on the same layer, that would have also changed the quote color to green. So just make sure that if you're planning on changing colors, that you're separating each stamp or each brush that you stamp into your product or into your design. So this one's pretty much finished. As you can see, it's a really basic design, but it's a really cool product. I can see you printing this as a 12 by 12 standout from like White House Custom Color with a stainless steel edge, and it would be something that I can really see that seniors would love. Get them involved with the design process as well at the sales session. Have them choose the quote from the quotable set that they would like in the center. Have them choose their 8 images and just really customize the product to their needs too. So it can be like a specialty product that you offer that's maybe titled something in line with quotes or something like that as well. So that's the first project. I want to move on to something a little bit more complex, where we're going to be layering things over the top of each other. And this one's actually for packaging. And let me just show you the final product of what we're going to create, just so you can kind of see the direction that we're working to. So I'm going to pop over to this file here. And this is a bag tag that we created for our packaging here for our studio using the Quotables set. We pretty much designed it into Photoshop, printed it here at the studio ourselves, cut it out, punched a hole in it, and put it on one of our bags for a client order. So as you can see here, pretty simple, and another really cool way that you can add personality to kind of a simple object in your studio and get your clients excited for when they open up their portrait order. So let me show you how we created this. We're going to change out the quote a little bit. We're not going to use this particular quote on here, but we're going to design the same style of the bag tag here. So let me just switch over again to this file. This one's just a 4x6. We print them on 4x6 photo paper here at the studio. So let me just show you how I created that bag tag so you can do that as well for your studio and just kind of get a feel for how you can layer the quotables brushes to get a lot of cool effects as well. So starting off, again, I'm going to create a new layer, a new transparent layer. So right down here, I'm just going to click that. I'm going to go up again to our brushes palette, and this time selecting one of the badges. These first three are actually banners. We're going to use those in the next project. The following ones are actually badges. They're circles, and then we have a few hexagon shapes as well. I'm going to select this first hexagon shape in that series, and we're going to stamp that onto our document. One thing to note as well with brushes is they're rasterized graphics. What that means is they're just like an image. When you start stretching them and moving them, they are going to get pixelated a little bit. So if you're not exactly sure what size you want them to be for a final product, it's always best to design them a little bit larger than what you want them, and you can always size them down. Just like an image, if you had a 4x6 image and you blew it up to a 16x20, it's going to look pixely. So keep that in mind when you're designing as well. For this, I know that I'm going to kind of want something about 2 inches as a final product, but I'm going to design it a little bit larger just to kind of show you what I mean by that as well. So starting with this hexagon shape, I created that new layer. I'm actually going to title that just so you guys know what it is. Sorry. Let's try that again. And I'm just going to title that badge. So on that layer, we're just going to, again, with black as our foreground color, our brush mode at normal and 100% opacity, I'm just going to stamp that down once. This is going to be the base of our layer or of our bag tag, and we're going to just build on top of this to create that fun little bag tag that we just showed you. So again, we're going to go up to our brushes palette. We're going to choose one of our quote brushes this time. For this one, we're actually going to use the "Hey, you look nice" quote. As you can see, it's pretty large over the 4x6 document. So using the bracket keys, we're just going to size that down until it's kind of a good size for that badge. So I think that looks really good there. And I'm actually going to switch my foreground color to white this time. So just hit X and it'll switch it. I don't want to stamp this right on top of the badge just because I want to keep them separate, and so we can center them on the object and that kind of thing. So again, I'm going to go over, create another transparent layer on top of that. This time I'm going to label this one quote. And we're going to stamp this, try to get it centered, and we're going to stamp this right in the middle of the badge. So as you can see, pretty basic stuff there. Just to make sure that it is centered, I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to centered and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to select both of those objects. As you can see, both of them are selected in our layers palette, and I'm going to vertically align and horizontally center those objects. So not much of a change there, but it did center that object within the badge. So this is okay. You could simply just print this and punch a hole in it and hang it from your bags or your packaging and use it in your packaging. But I want to add a little bit more interest to this as well. So we're going to use the same half-tone brush that we used in the first product design that we did. This time I'm going to use it over the top of the badge rather than above and below the quote graphic. So again, I'm going to create a new layer. This one I'm going to title halftone again. And I'm going to go and select that brush again. So this I am going to keep white like the quote. I do want to size it down a little bit though. And I'm just going to stamp it once at the top and then once at the bottom. So you can kind of see that that's kind of the finished look there. Just to note though, I know these are going to be cut out and it's on a white background, so it's not really a big deal with this. But if you were to take this now and select your move tool, and let's say you wanted to use this over a gray background or a red background, you are going to want to take the excess dots that went above the badge or outside of the badge and delete those off there. You can't see them now because we have a white background, but let me just show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to select red here and just fill this. So as you can see, we have that halftone pattern from the brush outside of the badge itself. So a simple way to get rid of those is to just hold down the command key. You're going to select and hover over the badge layer here, and as you can see, that marquee tool kind of overlays your cursor there. You're just going to click on that and it's going to select that layer. It's going to select the outside of that layer, all the edges, and simply do a Command Shift I, and what that did is it inversed your selection. So as you can see, the marching ants are around the edges of this document too, as well as the edge of the badge layer. And we're going to go up to the halftone layer that we created and just hit delete. So that deleted those dots off of there, and we'll do a deselect here, and you can see that it's kind of a finished product there, and you can move it over a color background or a textured background as you see fit. But it's not a big deal when you're cutting them out or with a white background, but just wanted to mention that to you if you guys find that you take that and move it over to another document and you see those other dots outside the lines, that's what's creating that problem too. So I'm going to switch this back over to white and fill that so you can see. So what I did with the bag tags, just so we're kind of not wasting paper, I selected these, moved it up, and we're just going to duplicate this with the Alt key, and you have two badges that you can print out and use on your bag tags there as well. So packaging is kind of a crazy thing. It really creates a lot of reactions for your clients as well. As much time and effort that we put into our packaging here at Adam Hummerding Photography, it makes a huge difference in their referrals and everything, and talking about your studio as well. So keep that in mind in creating these. It's a good thing to take the time and create some fun stuff for your packaging as well. So that's pretty much it with the bag tag. Let's move on to something that we've kind of done for our Facebook page that you guys can kind of implement as well to make your images look a little bit different than the competition, with some overlaying quotes using the Quotables brushes. So I'm going to pop over to an image here that we have one of our senior models. It's kind of calling for some type of text on it or some type of editorial type layout. Really easy way to do that is to use the quotable brushes. This one we're actually going to use a banner that we created, and it's included with the quotable brush set and one of the quote brushes, this time creating more of a transparent look. So we're actually going to be using the eraser on this one as well as the brush tool, and we're going to show you the difference between those and how the brushes, the quotable brushes, work with both tools. So let's start off again by creating a transparent layer, and we are actually going to build on top of the image. We're going to use the banner graphic. There's three different banners here. We're actually going to use the first one. They're both pretty similar, all three, a few different differences with the bottom of them. So this one is just a simple pointed banner at the bottom. I'm just going to click this once. It is in white. We're going to be changing that in a little bit, and I'll show you again with the color overlay how we can change that. But first we want to do a little editing. Obviously this doesn't look good overlaying her face, but we are going to resize this a little bit. I'm going to stretch it just to make that point a little bit more significant, and we're actually going to resize it down to a smaller size. And I'm actually going to rotate it, and we're going to place it down the bottom right. So it's kind of pointing up at her face, so the quote is going to kind of point in that direction as well. So we have the base of our banner, so it's pretty simple. You have that down there, and then I'm going to go over and actually select the eraser tool. So we are going to select one of our quote brushes. As you see, you still have the brush palette option in here under the eraser tool. You also have an opacity adjustment and the mode as well, like the brushes have. I'm going to select let's see, that smile looks good on you, located right here, brush. And as you can see, it's pretty large. So I'm going to size that down with the bracket key until it fits within our banner here. So this is at 25% opacity, and I just want to show you what it does at that, just so if it happens to you and you don't know why you can't get it to completely punch out of there, this is the reason why, because your opacity is low. So I'm just going to, for an example, just show you. So you can see that it took only 25% of that banner out of there where that quote brush was. I want it to be completely deleted out of there. So I'm going to undo that and change this to 100%. You can also key that in on your keyboard. Just hit 1, 0, 0, and it will make that 100% as well, just as a quick tip for you guys as well. One note of caution with the eraser tool. We use the align tool when we were doing multiple layers with the brush tool. With the eraser tool, once you hit it on there, it is deleted. You can't select them both and align them to center. So you kind of have to eye it out. There are ways that you can do multiple layers and then select and then delete it, but we're just going to keep it really simple for you guys and just kind of do a really quick way of just taking that quote out of that banner. So just eye it up as best as you can. Be careful that you are being pretty precise that it is in the center. So I'm just going to stamp it down once here. And as you can see, it deleted that out of there. I'm actually going to move this up a little bit. We have a little bit more trailing in there. And as you can see, actually just to show you, it is completely transparent. So we'll go over her face and over here, and you can see. So I'm going to move that about right there. I really like how that looks, but I want to change it up a little bit more with one of the additional graphics brushes. So I'm going to select the eraser tool again, and we're going to go over and we're going to select the slashes. It's the second kind of block one here. It's kind of hard to tell what it is, but once you start using the brushes, you'll kind of figure out where everything is as well. So we're going to make sure we have our layer selected here, and as you can see, it's just simple slashes. We're still in the eraser mode at 100%, and I'm going to move this down, and now that I see might be a little bit too large, so I'm going to actually go into my move tool, size this down a little bit more, and go back to my eraser tool. Perfect. So this is actually going to erase this just like the quote brush did. So I'm going to stamp down once I have that centered right here, and it kind of adds a base to that quote, just a little bit more of a design element as well. You can add one to the top, but I like the openness of the very top as well without anything over there. So the white is nice, but I want to add a little bit of color. So again, we are on a separate layer, so we can go over, do the effects again, do a color overlay, and it automatically goes to red. I want to do kind of a light blue with this, without quite so much saturation in it. And there you go. So you can easily resize this, merge them down, upload it to Facebook, but it's a really cool way to add a little bit more personality to the images that are kind of calling for it. Her big laugh here and that kind of thing with that smile looks good on you quote, it just works with this image. So another fun way that you can use it, and it also showed you just how to use that eraser tool to knock out those quotes out of the banners or the graphics as well. So we're going to kind of use all these tools into our very last project that we created for you guys and kind of include all the little steps that we took with all the other projects that included into one. So I want to show you a little bit of a marketing piece that you can create. Maybe it's a business card or a referral card for your clients, and it's just the back side, no images on the back. But we just want to show you how you can implement all of the tools and all of the brushes that are included in the Quotables set. So let's move over onto there. Here's a 5x5 template that we kind of are thinking that we would use as maybe, like I said, a referral card or the back of a 5x5 business card. So maybe on the front you would have a bunch of images, and then on the back you just have your web address and maybe a fun graphic. So let's just kind of start with this. Again, we're going to start with a transparent layer. Got one too many there. Let's take one away. And this one I'm going to title badge. And we're actually going to go over into our brushes again. We're going to grab the second hexagon shape here, and we're going to make sure that we are at 100%, and I want to be on black for this one. I'm going to stamp it down once like we did on the other steps and the other projects, so we have a basis to start on. We're going to create another transparent layer, and this one I'm going to title quote, and this time I am going to grab my brush, make sure my foreground is white this time, and I'm going to select the Make It Happen quote located in the Quotables set. Again, I'm going to resize that down with the brackets. I think that's a pretty good size. We're going to stamp that down on top. Again, grab the move tool, select both of those, and center vertically and horizontally to make sure that's centered in the badge. From there, I want to add a little bit more texture to this. You might not be a really modern photographer. Maybe you have a brand that's a little bit more textured and grungy or something like that. So we actually included a few texture brushes in the brush set as well. So this is just a way to kind of add that same transparency that we did with the Facebook image overlay, but it's using it in a little bit different technique. We're actually going to play with the opacity a little bit, make it a little bit softer, and then as we work through this design, you can kind of see how that plays out and how it works in the design. So I'm going to select the badge again, and we're actually going to go over to the eraser this time, and we're going to select one of the texture brushes. So the texture brushes are all located at the very end, and I'm going to select the very last one. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but you can see it has a very vertical design element to this eraser texture brush. So I'm going to use that to my advantage and kind of use it on this badge. I'm going to just do it at 100% just to show you what the 100% opacity looks like. I know it's not going to be the effect that I want, and we'll kind of adjust it later, but just to kind of illustrate what it's doing. So what it's actually doing is erasing part of that badge in that texture. So that's a little bit too strong. It's taking away from the quote. So I'm actually going to undo that, and I'm going to put this at about 25% opacity. On that badge again, I'm going to go to the same spot and just punch that out of there. So as you can see, it's a little bit softer, and I want to do the same thing up on the top here, just to kind of even that texture out a little bit. So you can see that adds a little bit more texture to the badge. It makes it a little bit softer, more real to life, and it's a little bit more of a stylized badge rather than the hard edges that we've done before. So let's kind of go and continue with this. I like how that is. You can go in, grab more of the textures as well if you want to. There's some other little brushes here that you can also use, maybe make them smaller, add some texture to the very edges to kind of roughen them up as well, kind of like that. So your options, you just really just play with it, see what you can create until you get it to where you like it. So I actually want to add a little color to the background of this to continue, and so you can see how that transparency is working. Obviously you see the white coming through, but I want to kind of do a blue color again like we did with the image overlay, kind of a soft blue, and I'm just going to fill that background color with the fill tool. So you can see here that blue is kind of coming through this badge because we used that eraser on there. Let's continue and add our website to this design as well. I'm going to move this up and actually resize it down a little bit. And let's start with just including the font, or including the web address text at the very bottom. Included with the download is a list of the fonts we use to create the quotable brushes in this set. You can click on any of them in that PDF and it'll bring you to a download link as well. So if you have other text that you want to add, it's there for you guys as well. So I'm going to make sure I have Blanche selected. That's the font I want to use, and I want to make sure that it's set to black. So we're going to go down here. I'm just going to type www.themoderncollective.com. Make sure that's centered. And we'll center that again on the document. So holding Command, we're going to select the Modern Collective text in the background and align center. So there we have our text. I want to include some of the other graphics that we have included in the quotable brush set. Down here we have two brackets. You have one that kind of faces the right and one that faces the left. I'm actually going to use this one, and we're going to create a new layer again. So another transparent layer. And as you can see, it's pretty large. I'm going to resize that down a little bit. And I want this one to be white. So I'm going to hit D for the default colors and then hit X so that white is the foreground color. I'm going to size that down a little bit more, and I'm going to stamp it onto that layer. So one thing to note about brushes as well is if you stamp them and that brush is outside, as you kind of saw that I did, it does actually crop that brush. It won't continue. So If you want it to be the whole thing, let me just redo that again. Make sure that you're stamping it in the center without anything hanging over the edge like this, because then it will do the very end. Or else if you stamp it over here, it is going to crop the edge of that brush, so you can see it crop the end off. I'm fine with that with this one. I'm actually going to resize this a little bit and move it out. And instead of using the other brush the other way, I'm just going to duplicate this, so Command J, and I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to move that over to the other side. I'm going to move this down so it's not competing with our badge. I'm actually going to move the badge up a little bit more. And I'm going to go and grab the halftone pattern again. Again, creating a new layer. I'm going to title this one Halftone. And I want this to be black, so I'm going to hit X again, and I'm going to resize this down so it kind of fits within those two brackets. So I'm going to stamp once up here. I'm going to stamp again at the bottom, kind of lining those up. And there we go. So I'm going to change the opacity of this, bring it down maybe 35%. You can kind of see that could maybe be a finished back of a business card for you, or a referral card, or anything like that. So you can kind of see how you can use those different design elements to create a really cool graphic for your business and throughout your business in different areas, from marketing to product design like we showed you. Really quick and easy to do. We just really wanted to jumpstart your creativity with these quotable brushes and hopefully give you a few ideas that you guys can use and to kind of build from in your business. So we hope you enjoyed this. If you want to keep in touch with us and learn about new quotables released, definitely take a look at our Facebook page by searching The Modern Collective on Facebook. Join our mailing list by going to The Modern Collective and going to the bottom of the page and typing in your email address. And you can always visit the shop at shop.themoderncollective.com. So if you guys have any questions on anything we covered here, definitely leave them as a comment on the blog post or on our YouTube video here, and we'd be happy to answer them. And you can always contact us through our website at themoderncollective.com. So thanks for watching, you guys. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have more videos for you soon.